students, welcome you all on the behalf of RAHUL ANAND tutorial. So as you know that I am RAHUL ANAND and this is somewhat around my channel whose name is actually the RAHUL ANAND tutorial. So now let's begin with the very interesting topics which are oftenly being asked in terms of your Neet, often the Aiims, often the All India Pre-Medical Examination. So these are literally belonging from which of the chapters of your book. So these are belonging from these, meaning in terms of the cell, the unit of life. So now let's understand about these, means what are actually the cell. So when we are talking about the case of the cell, you have to understand the introduction in it. So these are actually what? So these are known as the structure and the functional unit of life. Often these are known as what? So often these are known as the building block of life. Now, so when we are talking about this, so you are very clear about that, means why is it known as the building block of life. So nothing to make you explain about that. So now let's understand with reference to this, means what are actually the evolution of the cell theory. So when we are going as well as understanding about these cases, means what are actually the evolution in terms of the cell theory. So you have to understand the certain of the names of the scientists actually. So these are what? So these are like this, such as we are having the Robert Hooke. So who was actually the Robert Hooke? Tell me. So Robert Hooke played an important role as well as discovered what? Discovered the cell in terms of what of the era? In terms of the 1665. Now, in the second, you are often having the different names, such as what? After that, we are having what? After that, we are having the Theodore CH1. So when we are talking about the Theodore CH1, so he particularly do what? So he particularly examined as well as reported that what? So he particularly examined as well as reported that cell is having the thin outermost layer, which is often known as what? Which is often known as these like what? Such as the plasma membrane. So when we are talking about these, means what are actually the plasma membrane? So you are very clear about that. So these are what? Tell me. So these are the thin elastic membrane, often playing an important role to provide what? To provide the protection of what? Of actually your cell. Often when we are talking about these cases, meaning in terms of the plasma membrane, so there we are often having the different types of the mechanism through which what will be happening? Through the different types of the ingredients as well as the molecules in terms of what? In terms of the excreted products as well as in terms of carrying the course of the nutrition are literally being supported with reference to these mode only, meaning in terms of the plasma membrane. So how these are particularly being supported? Tell me. So by the mode of these in terms of the osmosis as well as the diffusion. So you are very clear about that, means what are actually the osmosis as well as the diffusion case. So in the case of the osmosis, what will be happening? So in this case, the concentration gradient will particularly radiate from what region? Will particularly radiate from the higher concentration region towards the lower concentration region. As well as when we are caring as well as calling about the case of this, means what are actually the diffusion. So you are very clear about that. So in this case, what will be happening? The concentration gradient will literally radiate from what? From the lower ingredient side towards the higher, or rather the higher concentration side. Often in these cases, you will be having what? The transparent membrane. So we'll be understand about these, means what are actually the transparent membrane as well as the semi-permeable membrane. So these will be present in terms of what? In terms of the case of the diffusion model. As well as when we are talking about these cases, in terms of what? In terms of the Theodore CH1. So he particularly proposed as well as was doing his experiment on what actually? So he was actually doing as well as performing the series of experiment with reference to what? With reference on the animal cell. As well as found what? So he found that what? The cell is having the thin outermost layer. So these are known as what? So these are known as the plasma membrane. And what are actually these? You are very clear about that. So when we are talking about these cases, mean he was performing his experiment with reference to the animal cell. As well as examined, as well as studied. So it literally means what? So he was actually the zoologist. Often when we are trying to tell, so he was particularly the zoologist belonging from what of the region? So he was actually belonging from this in terms of the British. Thus, he is known as what? So it will be known, or rather his name with reference to the codance of what? So he will be known as the what? The here in terms of the British zoologist. Now, after that we are having the different names in it, such as what? So you have deal about the Robert Hooke. After that you are often having what? So after that you are often having the Robert Brown. So now let's understand about this, means Robert Brown did what? So Robert Brown played an important role to discover what? So your Robert Brown played an important role to discover the here meaning term of the nucleus. So find here. After that you are often having what? After that we are often having the certain names as well as the names of the scientists in it, such as what? Such as we are having the Mitosis CH1. So what role does this means the Mitosis CH1? Often when we are talking about these cases, so you are often having the different types of the names of the scientists in it, such as what? Such as we are having the Mitosis, often what? The Mitosis CH1. So your Mitosis CH1 played an important role for what? So he often played an important role as well as studied, as well as what? As well as discovered, as well as examined, as well as proposed his hypothesis with reference to what? So he told actually that all the plants are literally having what? So your all the plants is composed as well as having what? So your all of the plants is actually having the different types of the cells in it, which particularly resemble as well as combined in order to form what? In order to form the tissue. So you are often very clear about that. Means what are actually the tissue? So tissue are what? So the group of cells. So when the particular cells will literally combine, result in the formation of the tissue. So this hypothesis, many term of what? Many term of that means your plants is actually having the different types of the cell, which literally combine in order to form the tissue. So this hypothesis was proposed by who? So this hypothesis was actually proposed by this scientist in order of the Mitosis CH1. Now, after that, he often played an important role to discover as well as do what? So he often played an important role as his influence are often being found in terms of what? In terms of the cell theory. So now let's understand about this. So you are very clear about that, which what are actually the cell theory. So played an important role to demonstrate the different types of the cell organelles as well as it is often having the breakup history. So we'll be often understanding about that in terms of the next lecture. So literally when we are talking about these cases, in which of the era this particularly mean the cell theory was actually being proposed. So it was what of the era as well as the year. So it was actually the 1839. So you could often find it on the board here 1839. Now after that you are often having the different names of the scientists in it, such as what? Such as we are having the Rudolf Virchow. After that we are often having the different names of the scientists in it, such as what? Such as we are having the Rudolf Virchow. So Rudolf Virchow actually proposed as well as do his experiment with reference to what of the era or either the year. So it was actually which kind of the year or either in which era he proposed the experiment. So it was actually the 1855. So he told what? So he often proposed the series of experiment as well as what? As well as studies, as well as proposed the result, as well as said what? So in terms of this result, he answered that what? So he answered, and when we are talking about another name of the scientist in terms of what? In terms of the Rudolf Virchow. So he often played an important as well as significant role with reference to the course of what? With reference to the course of the evolution of the cell theory. So with reference to what of the era? With reference to the 1855, he played an important role. What? So he played an important role in order for answering that all the cells are particularly being divided, and after that what will be happening? And after that all the new cells are literally coming out as well as existing from what? So all the newer cells are particularly existing with reference to the pre-existing cell. So you are very clear about that, means what are actually the role of the cell division. So in this case we will be having the two broad kinds of the state as well as the phase units. So these are what? So these are the meiosis as well as the mitosis. So you are very clear about that, means what are actually the meiosis as well as the mitosis. So in the case of the meiosis, these are known as what? So these are known as actually the here minute of the reductional division. Why did so? This is due to because in this case the chromosomes number are literally being reduced by how? Often these are particularly being found where? So this will be found with reference to the gametophytic stage, as well as on the other hand we are having what? Tell me. On the other hand we are having the meiosis, then the mitosis case. So what are actually the mitosis? So mitosis is often the type of the cell division in which what will be happening? In which what will be happening? Tell me. So your parental cell will be divided as well as producing the identical types of what? The daughter cells, which will be resembling what? The similar kind as well as the number of the chromosomes. Thus, this will be often known as what? So this will be known as the equitonal division. Why did so? This is due to because the same identical daughter cells are literally being produced from the pre-existing parents or either what? The ancestor cells or either the ancestor parents. Remember, as well as understood about these case means what are actually the what? The cell division. After that, when we are talking about these cases, so these are actually what? So these are the different types of the significant scientists playing important as well as significant role with reference in what? With reference in terms of the evolution of the cell theory. So we have understood about which names actually. So we have understood as well as deal about these means who are actually the Robert. What he particularly do? So he particularly do what? So he particularly proposed as well as discovered these many terms of the cell. After that we have often discovered as well as understood who was actually the Rudolf Virchow. Now after that often we have understood about the different types of the names in terms of the Robert Brown. As well as we have often deal about the certain types of the names of the scientists in it, such as what? Such as the Mitosis, Scalia, as well as what? As well as the Rudolf Virchow. So when we are talking about these cases in term, you have to understand the two more types of the important names as well as the particular role of these scientists in order of what? In order from the Mitosis Skaldium, as well as what? As well as the Radolf. But as well as when we are talking about these cases in order of the name of the two broad scientists, such as what? Such as the Mitosis Skaldium, as well as what? Such as the Mitosis Skaldium, as well as what? As well as the Theodore CH1. So you have to remember the certain facts in it. So these particularly proposed what? So these particularly proposed the here minute of the cell theory with reference to what of the era? Tell me. So with reference to the 1839. Now, so when we are talking about these cases, what? So when we are talking about these cases in the another facts in it, such as what actually the different types as well as the parts of the cell organelles. So these are actually what? So we'll be having the around 14 to 15 types of the different parts in it. What? In these actually in terms of the what? The cell organelles. So these are like what? Tell me. So these are like this in terms of the nucleus. Then what? Now let's understand about these which what are actually the cell organelles, as well as the different vital parts which are actually being present with reference to the cell. So we are having around how much? So we are having around here in terms of the 14 to 50 different types of the cell organelles as well as the parts in it. So these are actually what? So this will be, tell me. So this will be the nucleus. Then what? Then the nucleolus. Often we will be having the here in terms of the endoplasmic reticulum. In terms of what? In terms of the rough endoplasmic reticulum as well as the smooth endoplasmic reticulum. Often you will be having the lysosomes, often the vacuoles. Then what? Often the centrioles. Often what? Often you will be having these in terms of the endoplasmic reticulum. So we have done about that. After that, what? The Golgi complex, as well as the Golgi apparatus, as well as what? As well as the vacuoles, as well as the centrioles, as well as what? The ribosomes, as well as the liposomes. As well as we will be often having the centriosomes, as well as the another components in it, such as the plasma membrane, as well as the cell wall. So you are very clear about that, which what are actually the plasma membrane. So these are what? So these are the thick elastic membrane, playing important role to provide the protection with reference to the cell. Fine. Often playing important role for what? Often playing important role in order to maintain the geographical status with reference to the ingredients which are particularly coming as well as living what? Your cell. So your cell often require the amount of the nutrition. So there we will be having what kind of the mode in order of the when we are talking about that. Means how does the particular ingredients particularly coming or either entering the cell surface as well as going out from the cell surface by the mode of what? So it will be taking place with reference by the help of the what? The meiosis as well as the mitosis. Often we have read about as well as understood about these means what are actually the mitochondria. Regarded as what? Regarded as the powerhouse of cell. So now let's understand about this. So you are often having the broad kinds of the categories with reference to the another part, such as what? Such as we are having the lipids. So lipids are what? So lipids are actually the natural occurring what? So lipids are actually the natural occurring substances which are particularly insoluble in water. What are actually the role when we are talking about these cases? Main what? Main actually the lipids play important role to provide the nutrition when we are talking about the case in terms of the cell. So your lipids will be present in terms of what? In these cell, of course. Now, as well as when we are talking about these cases, means what are actually the nucleus. So these are what? So these are the oval as well as what? The spherical shaped structure generally present in terms of the between of your cell. So you are often having the different types of the projection like structure, such as what? Such as the silica as well as the flagella. When we are talking about these cases, means what are actually the flagella? Tell me. So these are actually found where? So your flagella will be found in terms of the plant cell. As well as when we are caring, as well as telling about these, means what are actually the cilia. So these are directly proportional, found in terms of what? Found in terms of the animal cell. Fine. As well as when we are talking about these cases, means what are actually the animal cell as well as the plant cell. You are also very clear about that. Means in the case of the animal cell as well as in the plant cell, what are actually the major difference? Tell me. So in the case of the plant cell, you will be having the cell wall like projection. When we are talking about the case in terms of the animal cell, we will be having the leg of this cell wall like projection. Fine. Often when we are talking about the best example with reference to the plant cell, so these are what? So these are the onion cell. On the other hand, when we are talking about the case of the animal cell, best example. So these will be actually what? So these will be the arthriocytes. Directly proportional for what? Directly proportional for your here minute of the red blood cell. Often you are very clear about that. Means what are actually the lifespan with reference to your red blood cell. So these are around how much of the days with reference to the human body. So these are around 120 days. Now, when we are talking about these cases, means what are actually the different types of the cells. So we are often having the two broad types of the cells. So these are actually what? So these are the eukaryotic cell as well as the prokaryotic cell. So the one in which the ingredient as well as what? As well as the nucleus as well as what? As well as the cell membranes will be particularly developed as well as present in terms of the inferior. Or either what? Or either it will be absent. Coming under what case? So it will be coming under your prokaryotic cell. As well as when we are talking about the particular portion in which the what? in which the cell organelles as well as the nucleus will be particularly developed. So this will be coming under what case? So this will be actually coming under your here in terms of the eukaryotic cell. As well as when we are talking about these cases, means in terms of what? What are actually the nucleolus? So find here. So these are what? Tell me. So in these are actually having the different types of the composition, as well as your nucleolus are literally being what? Composed of the two broad kinds of the things. So these are what? So these are actually the protein as well as the RBC, mean the red blood cell. Remember, I have delivered as well as made you understand before what are actually the arthrocytes, mean the red blood cell. Now, the term of the protein. So protein are what? So protein are the macromolecules of the amino acid. So when we are talking about the amino acid, so it will be what? So just reverse the concept. So amino acid will be the macromolecules of your protein. As well as when we are talking about these cases, means what are actually the protein divided in terms of the four broad categories. So we'll be understanding about that in terms of our next lecture. So now let's proceed with reference to the third one. So you will be having what? So we are often having the lysosomes as well as what? As well as the ribosomes. Now, so when we are talking about these cases, means what are actually the lysosomes. So these are actually what? So your lysosomes are generally being found in terms of what? In terms of the eukaryotic cell. Remember? As well as these are particularly present in terms of what? In terms of the animal cells with reference in terms of what? Coordinates in terms of the defined order. As well as when we are talking, so there are often the exception case in terms of what? So in the red blood cell, your what? So these lysosomes will not be present as well as, but when we are talking about the case of the animal cell, it will be present in terms of what? In terms of the defined nature. As well as your lysosomes are often being divided in terms of what? In terms of the two broad categories such as the primary lysosomes as well as the secondary lysosomes. So we'll be understanding about that later. After that, let's proceed with reference to the ribosomes. Remember about the case of the ribosomes. So what are ribosomes? Tell me. So ribosomes are the smallest cell organelles. Often when we are talking about the scientists, so who have actually demonstrated these meaning of the ribosomes. So it was discovered by the Palade. So Palade was the particular scientist, played an influential role in order for the discovery of what? Of actually your ribosomes. Now, so let's understand about these, means what are actually the broad categories with reference to your ribosomes. So these are often being divided in terms of the two broad categories. So these are actually what? So these are the 70S ribosomes, then the 80S ribosomes. Remember? So your 70S ribosomes is often having the two broad kind of the subunits. So these are what? Tell me. So these are the here in terms of the 70S ribosomes. So just calculate with reference to here. So the upper end will be what? So the upper end will be actually these, meaning term of the 30S. On the other hand, when we are talking about the larger subunit, so it will be what? So it will be actually the here, meaning term of the 40S ribosomes. Now, so it is often having the broad kinds as well as the structure of the 3' proteins, which are literally being present in terms of its structure. We'll be understanding about that in terms of our next lecture. As well as we are often having the 80S ribosomes. So remember, with reference to their structure, so it will be having the what? So it will be often having the two of the subunits, such as what? Such as the smaller subunits, then the larger subunit. And of course, when we are talking about the smaller subunit, directly proportional for the 30S ribosomes. When we are talking about the case of the larger subunit, so it will be around how much? So it will be around 40S ribosomes. So these are the broad categories when we are talking about the types of actually your ribosomes. So these are what? The 70S ribosomes, then the 80S ribosomes. After that, you are often having the different types of the broad categories in it. So we have dealt about the plasma membrane. So these are what? So these are the thick elastic membrane. So often you are having the different types of the parts in it, such as what? Such as this in terms of the Golgi complex, the Golgi apparatus, as well as what? As well as the nucleus. So when you are talking about the case of the nucleus, so your nucleus will be having what? So your nucleus will be actually having the chromosomes. And these chromosomes containing what? So these chromosomes are actually containing the genetic material. So often you are very clear about that, means what are actually the chromosomes. So these are actually what? So these are the thin thread like structure on which what will be happening? On which actually your genetic materials are literally being present. As well as you are often having the another types of the components in it, such as what? Such as we are often having the cytoskeleton, directly proportional for what? So these are just like the composition which is similar to your skeleton, but these are completely not what? So these are not completely the skeleton. So these are often playing an influential role as like what? As like in terms of the supportive role with reference to the here mineral for the promoting the strength with reference to your components of the cell. So this is somewhat the condition when we are talking about the ingredients as well as what? The types as well as the components which are literally being present in terms of your cell organelles. Often we have dealt about difference of the vital types of the ingredients which are literally being present in terms of your cells, such as what? Such as the lipids, as well as the another types of the modes. Often we have dealt about these things Means in the case of the plasma membrane, we will be having the two different types of the here, in terms of the process of the ingredient flowing mechanism. So these are actually what? So these are the here in terms of the what? The osmosis as well as the diffusion. Often we have dealt about the bit introduction with reference to what? Means about the course of the evolution theory. So what were actually the names of the influencing role as well as who were actually the important scientists played an influencing role in order for the evolution of the cell theory. So thus this is somewhat the condition when we are talking about these cases, means what are actually the evolution of the cell theory as well as what? As well as the ingredients, as well as the cell organelles, as well as the components of the cell. So I thought you have got the concept, means what are actually these. So these are literally belonging from which of the chapter of your book? So these are belonging from the cell, the unit of life. So you could often write these. So if you like the work with reference to the education as well as the lectures as well as the videos, so you could often do what? So you could often subscribe, like as well as comment below in the text, as well as share my videos with reference to what? With reference to the Rahul Anand tutorial. So you could often subscribe, like as well as share. Thus this is somewhat the condition where we are talking about, means what are actually the here, in terms of the components of the cell organelles. Often we have did about the bit introduction, means what are actually the evolution of the cell theory. So these are literally belonging from which of the chapters of your book? So these are belonging from the cell, the unit of life. So I thought you have got the concept. So you could often write these. So if you like the work with reference to the education as well as the lectures as well as the videos, so you could often subscribe, like as well as comment below in the text, as well as share my lectures with reference to what? With reference to the Rahul Anand tutorials. So very thank you.